Today in the Pipeline vlog, pull lists. Don't do them wrong. We had a little bit of a flare-up on Twitter last week over someone who wasn't honoring their pull list and basically wanted to walk away from all the comics that they had asked their comic shop owner to buy for them, put aside, and then not sell to them. This is wrong. Now, there is no established one single way of doing pull lists in this industry. Every store will do it a little bit differently, probably, and every store will ask you, to be gentle with it, basically. All the stores I've known, and only one store I've ever had a pull list at, to be honest, had something that I guess in the old days we would have called a gentleman's agreement. That's probably a sexist term these days, but it was basically just sort of a handshake deal, let's call it that. And it was more or less that you promised if you wanted to drop a title, you would do so as soon as possible. You would give the comic shop owner notice that you were doing it, and preferably you could do it, a month or two in advance would be great, because they were ordering the books a month or two in advance, so they were still paying for it whether or not you bought it. But as long as you let them know you didn't want the title anymore, it was part of the deal. They would put the extra copy on the shelf maybe next month, and they would take sort of the hit, because in the long term, overall, on the macro level, it worked out in their favor, right? They still had lots of people promising to buy lots of books, and there was a small percentage of those books that people wouldn't want anymore. Those would be the titles that people decided to jump off on. And in this day and age of previews magazines, and in the internet, of course, people know usually in advance that they're going to jump off when a new creative team takes place, or when a new crossover takes over everything, and that kind of thing. I mean, I remember when I left my last comic store because my job changed, I gave them 2 months notice. I promised them, I slowly, weaned off of the pull list, and they were kind enough to say, don't worry about it, it's not that big a deal, and they, just absorbed the books, and I bought as many as I could until the final day that I was shopping there. But basically, in the end, the deal is, don't be a jerk. Talk to your comic shop owner. Don't just assume that those books will be, instant sales for them somewhere else, or that it's the cost of doing business. Don't be a jerk. If you're not going to pick up your books, let them know so they can put them on the shelves while they're still fresh and have a chance of selling. At the very least, you should do that. At the very most, give 2 months notice so that they know in advance to cut off their orders and not continue to buy copies that you are not going to buy, that they were only buying because you said you were going to buy them. A lot of stores with a lot of, especially the low-selling series, only buy enough for the pull lists, plus maybe 1 or 2 for the shelves. And if all of a sudden they have 3 or 4 or 5 on the shelves because everyone dropped them and didn't tell the comic shop owner about it, they're losing money on those things. And yes, I know there's a fly buzzing around here, and it's annoying me too. The point is, again, don't be a jerk. Don't laugh at the comic shop owner for buying books for you that you then don't buy, and then giggle about it on Twitter. That is, again, being a jerk. Be nice. Communicate. Don't have bad feelings about this. Don't jerk the owner around, is all I'm saying. That's basically how a pull list should run. Now, whether you prepay for things, or pay a deposit, or have to join a club, or whatever the other minor details are, in the end, it's always the same thing. Don't be a jerk. Talk to the comic shop owner, or whoever runs their pull list there. And make sure that people know what's going on, so that you don't screw them in the end by leaving a solid stack of comics this high because, you moved away and didn't want to tell them, or you just were too lazy to show up at the comic shop for months. And then, by the way, also, if you don't show up at the comic shop for 3 months and don't tell the comic shop owner you're doing that, and then go back and your pull list isn't there, don't complain, because, they can't hold the books forever for you. How would they know? It's still... Comic shops are still sort of mom and pop operations. They still operate, most of them at least, on sort of the friendly neighborhood grocery guy kind of model, where it is a community. That's what a lot of people still go to the comic shop for. That's why a lot of people don't just go digital, because they like having that sort of that clubhouse to go to every week to see their fellow comic shop or comic book buyers and their fellow fans, and have that few moments of talking about comics with someone who knows about comics. I know that was a big part of the reason I used to go. I used to hang out at the shop an awful lot. But part of that is the social contract as much as the written contract or the fiscal contract of a pull list. So just keep these things in mind. Don't be a jerk. Talk to your comic shop owner and just, don't stiff them. That's all. That's so hard. That's so hard to do. Is that so much to ask? I don't think so. And don't be a jerk on Twitter about it either.